Welcome to Just Say This, the place to get all the help you need for the birds and bees talks. I'm your host, Amy Lang. Just a quick reminder, this show is for grown-ups because I'll be swearing. There'll be lots of swears, and then I'll also be talking about grown-up sex. I can guarantee that your kids do not want to listen to this, and they really don't want to listen to it with you. You've been warned. Do you have a question for me? Please give me a call. The phone number is 206-926-1522, 206-926-1522, and I will answer on the show. And if you have a funny sex talk story, please call in those as well. 206-926-1522. Thanks. Hey everybody, I am super excited. We get a guest star. Yay! I have invited my friend Lisa Honold. She is the director of the Center for Online Safety to answer some questions. And welcome. Thanks for being here.
I am so glad to get started. We've got some good questions today.
We do. And I like to think I know everything, but I also know my limits. So I think these are right up your alley. And before we get into the questions, will you just tell me your story? What's your story, Morning Glory?
Oh my gosh. So I got into this line of work helping parents understand the internet and online safety because I have 3 kids and I realized they're teenagers now. And I realized, a few years ago that it's like the Wild West out there when it comes to kids and online safety. They're in danger all the time. And I saw a real gap in parent education and people that could understand enough about the internet so that parents could feel okay about some limits and guidelines for kids to get out there and get independent a little bit.
Yeah. And it is like the wild, wild west. I think that's a great way to describe it, because back in the days and the before times when people went west, there was a whole lot of unknowns. And this is the same exact thing. Was there something that happened like with your kids or something that sort of made you think, okay, this is okay. We need help. I need help.
Mm-hmm. There was a series of somethings. The biggest something was one of my kids got into some trouble. They ended up losing a friendship because they were doing something online totally inappropriate. I didn't know about it. The only reason I found out was because another mom told me, and I had a lot of limits and guidelines in place already. And I threw up my hands at that point and was like, I really need to dive into this and figure out what else I can do, because I feel like I'm doing everything and it's not working. And we're just starting the teen years. I need better skills to apply to my family. And as I started talking to other parents, they would quietly, privately tell me, oh my gosh, we're having the same issues. But they wouldn't tell me in groups or in like a big thing. It was one-on-one. It was really secretive because it's so shameful for parents to talk about. And I want to let everyone know it's not our fault. It's not our fault. The system is rigged. These social media companies, they know what they're doing. The system is rigged. And it's very hard to get ahead of what's going on. So that's the first thing we need to talk about.
Yeah. And isn't it the worst and the best that your child gave you this gift? Like Milo gave me the gift of sex talking. He didn't give me that gift, but like the same thing, right? It was our kids, right? Here we both are with this situation, and how you're right. Like this whole, like the sex thing, that's kind of like normal secret, right? But having something go on with your kid online and how that is just so different, right? It's fraught. And of course it's porn. Regularly it's porn. So then there's this layer, and I love that you did what I did and took this sort of trauma and made it into something that is helpful and makes a difference. Because you're absolutely right. Like people, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about when this kind of thing happens. And of course they tell you, right? Because you're easy to talk to and open. And then if you even just make it, I'm sure when you made a hint that you'd experienced the same thing, it was floodgates. It was floodgates.
Total floodgates, yes. And now people hear what I do, and that's the first thing they say. They either tell me about the rules they have in place or about the latest thing that's happened that they're like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
It gets real fast.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. So I know we're going to be giving advice to these specific questions. If there, I know you get this question all the time. Like, what do you wish that parents knew about what I don't know if this is even the right thing to ask you. Like, what do you wish they knew that they could kind of get in their gut and fully understand about the risks online? Like, is there something we're missing there? I don't know. Does that make even any sense?
I think the biggest thing is that no one cares about their kids more than they do. I used to think that technology companies had rules and regulations and that they were following. Surely our government has rules around this stuff. And surely if the age is 13 for a child to get accounts on social media, that must mean something, and they must have a child account, and there must be certain protections for them. And what I need parents to hear is that's not true. There's no one out there that cares more than you. And at this point, it really is the Wild West, and there aren't these protections. Also, schools are doing the best they can, but there's this gap between what schools can do and what parents can do. And I need you to hear that there is a gap, and no one cares more than you.
Yeah, I love that. It's true, right? Because I'm a little mistake. It takes a village, but at the end of the day, like especially corporations, but even other parents, right? They don't care about my kid in the same way that I do. And, like they may love my kid, they may want the best for him, but in terms of just making sure that he's safe is different, right? Than making sure their kid is safe. And then I think there's also, I think I hope I keep thinking. It's like, please people, they're going to see porn, right? They're just going to see porn. They're going to get involved in shit online and social media. It's just going to happen. So could you please, as we know, I like to lovingly say, pull your head out of your ass and understand that this is just a fact of life. It is a fact of childhood. It is a fact of life. And like you said, no one cares about your kid per se, as much as you do. You're much kinder than I am, but we already knew that. We already knew that. Okay, so I like that because I think that this idea that somebody's watching out, they're not. They're not. So I'm just curious about this with this school thing. So how many in the last, I don't know, little while, how many phone calls and conversations have you had about kids who've have been exposed to porn or whatever online on school computers? Do you have a number?
I have a number that's more than two hands worth, and schools, what school has been in session, not quite a month. It's a lot. It's a lot. And parents don't realize that it can even happen.
Yeah.
And there's the whole slew of phone calls around my 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old is sexting, and I don't feel comfortable taking away their phone or doing any kind of discipline or even talking to them. I'm scared to talk to them because this feels so big and scary. And where do I start? And what have I done? And I mean, there's so much baggage around it. It's hard to get started.
Yeah, it definitely is. And with this school thing, like I was surprised. Like the schools they're doing the best they can, and it's not good enough. So, I think it's fair to say, assume your kid's school computer it's not protected. Just assume it's a free range situation.
Ask a lot of questions. Yes, I do a whole workshop around this because parents are shocked when they find out that Chromebooks are so loosey-goosey. Especially Chromebooks, because it feels like every school is giving them out like left and right. And they're great, except they're once they come home, they're not protected, they're not filtered, they're not monitored at all, and it's on you.
Yeah.
The other part of that is that the IT person from school is probably not going to let you install anything to make it safer. Right. So there's this crazy circle.
Right. Which kind of comes back to like this head in the sand thing. And what happened is the internet happened to us, right? It just kind of evolved with us. And so I think I'm 54, and it just sort of happened along. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, my kid can get into all kinds of trouble online. There wasn't any thoughtfulness about it. Like I wish we had .sex. They wouldn't let them do .sex or .xxx, right? If they had done that at the beginning and that shit could be corralled, then we would have a different experience. And I know it's more than the porn. And you talked about sexting and, we want to talk about the back channel of Snapchat and Instagram and all that. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's going on with kids that is related to being online and isn't safe for them. So yeah, I just think that like what your work is so important. And I think the thing that's important about it is when you said this is a dirty little secret, right? It's not it's happening to everybody. There's no reason to be secret about it.
We've got to start talking about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have to start talking about it because it's not serving our kids. And like you said at the beginning, it's not our fault per se. It's not our fault per se, because there is stuff we know we can do and should be doing. So I do believe it's a piece of it is us because we're in denial. Right. My kid would never Google boobs.
Yeah.
Right. My child would never Google anything related to sex. Seriously, just ask me about him. Never. Zero interest. He's living with his first girlfriend. She's delightful. They are not having sex. I promise. Because I don't want them to. Anyway, so shall we hit these questions? I think I'm really happy you're here. So before we get to the Q&A part, I know you have a podcast as well. So we got our podcast listeners. We tell me about your podcast. What's going on? How's it going? And
Thank you.
The world needs your voice. So let's hear it.
Okay. My podcast is called Unplug and Plug In, and it's for parents. It's about parents who want to introduce technology to their kids slowly. It's for parents who also see the need to unplug every once in a while and see the benefit of plugging in. So every week we talk about what we're unplugging from and what we're plugging into. Some weeks I have experts, other weeks it's just me talking about something related to online safety or parenting in general. It's a baby podcast, and I am excited to invite everyone to come listen.
Yeah, me too, because this is like so important. And I love the name of it, and I love the idea of it because it's just so reasonable and calm, and you can do this, right? I think that's the message, right? You don't have to go crazy town. You can do it carefully. You can unplug slowly. I think that's really a good thing. And I don't know, I'm sure there are other podcasts out there like this, but your background and what you do is so great. And I think that this is perfectly poised, and I'm happy to have you here, right? Because yay, you're going to help everybody. So when you're done listening to me, go listen to Lisa, get your little like safety sex thing, all good to go, a little package. And then your website has some good resources and stuff. Would you we'll put all this in the show notes, of course, obviously, but.
Yes. If you go to centerforonlinesafety.com, you'll find a whole page for parents. You'll find another page for schools. If you've got a school who may need some training and resources, I have a bunch of those things. Lots of workshops for parent groups and activities for you, and scripts for you to use with your kids.
Yay, scripts. I'm a fan. Okay, so excuse me. Let's listen to this first question.
Hi, Amy. I'm calling not with a question, but just sort of to vent about something that happened this week that was very upsetting. I have a 9-year-old daughter about to start a dance class, so we were looking for dance clothes, and in order to prepare for the class, she needs tights and a leotard and all of that. So I went on Amazon. She was standing next to me, and I searched for girls' dance. I believe it was girls' dance shorts or girls' dance clothing. And the second listing that popped up was a ad or a listing for an adult pair of, I guess you'd call them booty shorts. But the picture is the booty shorts on a woman's butt with the booty shorts, and then in huge graphic letters it says "Daddy's little slut" across the butt. So I was shocked. I really quickly moved the phone. I was searching on the Amazon app on my phone out of the sight of my daughter, and assessed pretty quickly that she hadn't actually seen it. She'd been kind of distracted and looking at a book that she had in her hands. So it was a quick save, but I was so mad. Put the phone down. I said, let's look later. I'll look for something on my own. But I was just so shocked, and it made me realize that, I have the Circle app, and I try to, I have a lot of parental controls in place. I don't let my daughter search online by herself. monitor things pretty well. And in a place like Amazon, I didn't really think it would be so easy to come across something like that. Now, there's a whole other thing about that phrase, and, to an adult, it's like, okay, we know what that means. But for a 9-year-old girl, you can imagine if she had read that, the kind of conversation I would have had, and I'm very glad I didn't. But I was really mad. I wrote a letter to Amazon. I wrote a bad review on the listing saying that it was an inappropriate image. But I just wanted to tell you about it because I think the imagery that kids can be exposed to, even when we're trying to be really careful and make sure that they don't have access to things like pornography online and some of the other things you can come across really easily, something really innocuous like Amazon, this is just pervasive. So anyway, just something to think about, and thanks for all you do. Love your show. Bye.
All right. That's it. It's Daddy's Little Slut time. It's terrible. Terrible.
I'm so sorry you had to see that.
Terrible. And, I think that this is just such a good example of how easy it is to get involved accidentally, even as an adult, in something that is totally inappropriate for kids. I'm just curious if you have some thoughts about maybe what she could have said and talking to an older kid, or, there's a lot there to unpack. What were your initial, listening to that, what were your initial thoughts and advisings?
Yes, I would have been as shocked as she sounded, because that's the last place you expect to see this stuff. When you're Googling, when you're out on the main Google or you're doing something else, stuff comes up, but within Amazon, when you're looking at something like that, that is crazy. So my initial thought was, what would have happened if the 9-year-old daughter would have seen that? Like Mom said, it would be a really hard conversation. What I thought about was a little bit older kid, a kid who was in middle school. It's an ideal conversation to have with them, to show them the phone instead of taking it back and saying, oh, thank God she didn't see it, to actually show them and say, wow, this is completely inappropriate. I am going to do A, B, and C. And that's what I expect you to do too. When you see these things that are inappropriate, you can come get me, you can report it, you can go through your family values and why this is just not acceptable. So with a middle school person, I definitely would have shown them how to report it.
Yeah.
And talked through why it's not okay to be there.
So will you say, I would have done A, B, and C? Will you just walk us through what A, B, and C would be? So like you said, okay, here's this thing, you throw open your mouth a little bit and then you show really, what else is there for us to do here? And then you show the kiddo and say, this is what I'm seeing. So what is A, B, and C? What would you...
Amazon specifically?
Or just kind of in general. I feel like there's two things there, like the conversation around what to do when you see something like that. And then maybe the more because she reported it and stuff. Do you think a kid should do that? So let's do the first chunk. How do you coach your kid when they see something totally random like that, on freaking Amazon, right? Come on. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. For a 9-year-old, I think they can know if they ever saw something like that, come to me. I wouldn't expect them to report it on their own or do anything else. It's just, this stuff comes up. I'm so sorry that it's a part of our experience these days. This is what we need to do about this. I will handle it. You just need to tell me about it. There's no shame in talking about this, and I am here for you.
Lovely. I love that. Thank you. Okay. With the older person?
With the older person, show them the picture and say, this is what we're going to do. So on Amazon specifically, I like that she reported it to Amazon, that she wrote a letter and said, hey, this is inappropriate. I don't know what tags or what keywords they're using, but this needs to stop. I've done similar things to Amazon, and they have responded without a canned letter, but with an actual response.
Wow.
I don't know if anything happened with the seller or if they had to change keywords. I didn't follow up on that. I don't know.
Yeah.
If it were something within social media, I would show, say a 10, 11, 12-year-old, I would show them how to block a person potentially if a person is doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I would show them how to report it to social media if they're on social media. Hopefully they're not on before 13. Show them how to report it to the company and hopefully get a response. So have that whole process in there.
Yeah, I love that. Because I think that we don't think, like, it didn't occur to me to report it. I just was like, oh God. Well, actually I was like, oh fuck, because it's me. And it didn't even occur to me to report it, because I think the thing that's really important about that is it shows, like, it's a stewardship moment, right? It's like, this is how we take care of our community, and also maybe adding, like, we don't want other kids to see this. And then of course the other part of that conversation is, what the hell does that mean? Right? Like, how do you dissect that? Which I will just take a minute, because of course people are probably wanting to know, how do you explain daddy's little slut? It's kind of inexplicable, right? I mean, it's so many layers. I don't even know if I can do it. So feel free to help, because it's complicated, right? We don't ever want to refer to a child as a slut, right? So we have to define slut, which is I don't say derogatory to kids, but I say it's a mean and not okay way to refer to someone who usually is a woman who has had sex with a lot of different people. That's what slut means. Does that sound good?
It sounds good.
I never have someone to talk to about these things when I'm doing this. See, it's a problem of having a solo show. Okay, so that's what slut means. And then daddy's little slut is basically putting a label on someone that their father is proud of them for behaving that way. Does that resonate?
I don't know if that gets to it.
Or it's like I don't even understand. What is it? I don't know. It's so weird. Daddy's little slut.
Creepy.
It's so creepy.
It's creepy.
It's creepy because fathers should not be sexualizing or talking about their children at all, and their daughters as about them being a sexual person in that kind of grown-up-y way, right? Like, healthy father-daughter relationship does not include labeling their child as someone who is a slut. And it implies being proud of that child, right? Or like it's a badge of honor to be daddy's little slut.
Yeah, it's a playful, badge of honor. It's icky. Playful. We have to move on, Amy.
Yes, we can move on. No, you can't see her, but it's like, stop talking. Please stop talking. Okay. So let's just go back. Okay, back up the truck. So you think this mama handled this pretty well from the sounds of things. Is there anything else? What about like preemptive, right? A preemptive conversation. Because it's one thing to say, watch out for the porns on the internet, but it's another thing to say, like, you're in Amazon, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of TV commercials these days that are not on late at night that really make me squirm because they're so sexualized. They're so what I would consider completely inappropriate for prime time or even earlier. So that would be another stopping point. If you've got to pause to pause the screen, if you're watching with your kids and say, wow, what was that? Just to stop it and say, gosh, that is not appropriate for right now. What is going on with this? And have a conversation as a family, not a preachy conversation, just, wow, things have really changed. This seems like a lot before bedtime.
And bedtime is 9:30 and it is 9:15. What the hell? Yeah, I think that's a really good point because it's this broader cultural thing, because it isn't just the porn. It's the sexualized, like you said, commercials and music videos.
Halloween is coming and all the sexual stuff around that. And yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I think that just this conversation in general, like, so I just want to circle back to the online safety piece of it, is about like how it's really about preparation, right? It is. It's about knowing enough to just expect it everywhere. And I'm so sorry that it's hit Amazon. It's everywhere, but just expect it everywhere and use it as teaching moments. so that your child or young tween or teen will be prepared, because they're going to see it on their own too.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, cool. Okay. All righty. Let's leave that alone. So I've never said the word slut so many times in my adult life. I mean, maybe I said it previously, but this is the most I've said that. So I'm never going to say the S word, that S word again. So let's listen to our next question.
Hi, Amy. I'm calling with a question about getting monitoring and parental controls set up on devices. We have one child, a 10, almost 11-year-old son. We do allow him to play video games from time to time and watch YouTube from time to time. We've always been present during those sessions because we have this question about how do we set this up? Is this like a third-party system? I think I've heard of like Net Nanny. Anyway, wondering if you have recommendations, because we do want to get this put in place ASAP. Just not quite sure where to begin in terms of quality software or whatever it takes to monitor and control what he views. Thanks very much.
This one's better, huh?
This one's so easy.
It's so easy. So easy. It's so easy. And what is this, like the world's most common question, right? Like my most common question is, when do you start the conversation? Yours is, I'm sure, always about monitoring parental controls, right? So I actually have a question for you about this, because this is something I've been telling parents to do, and I want to check with you and see what you think. And then of course you can take over. So I've been telling parents that they should install the monitoring and not tell their kids about it, and watch where they're going for a week or so they can see what they're up to. Because if they're monitored, they're going to change their behavior. If they know the monitoring is on, they're going to change their behavior. So technically, this is spying. However, as a parent, I think it's our responsibility to make sure our kids are making good choices, because it's behind the scenes, right? So you could look before, right? You can totally look before you put the monitoring on and see where they've been, if they're smart enough to, if they're not smart enough to to cancel out their steps. I don't know the words. Anyway, what do you think about that? I feel a push-pull about it, but I also, anyway, you're the expert.
I wonder if it would make a difference to you if they were 8 or 15.
Would it make a difference to you?
It would, because the 15-year-old, I would assume the parent, the reason they're asking now is because they've already had issues and they need to get a better handle on what's going on, and they have no idea of the extent of what's already happened. They probably know a little bit of the tip of the iceberg, but not nearly enough. So I might recommend that for an older child. The problem at any level is most of these monitoring apps, you need your kids' help to set them up. You need their password.
You need their password. Okay, well then that's a problem. Nothing should be password protected. My favorite app is Bark for monitoring, for screen time, for everything. BARK, Bark for Families. And for that one, it is very collaborative. There's no way that you can do it on your own. It's not a spy app. They don't want parents to be spying on their kids. We know that it is not good for the trust or the relationship long term. Right. So you need their help setting this stuff up. So I would preemptively start talking to them about, with great privilege comes great responsibility. And part of that is our family expectation is that we have this monitoring. And when they push back and say, you don't trust me, how could you? Then you say, there's 4 billion other people online, and there's no way that every single one of them is going to be nice and kind and appropriate. So we, as a family, have agreed that this is what's appropriate for us. We need to monitor you. We need to supervise you. And we're going to go slow tech all the way. You're going to start with one app and work your way up to having more than one.
You've got to prove responsibility and prove that you understand how to use it before we give you more permission to go out there with more.
So yes, and Bark is awesome, and there is a link in the show notes. So that's good.
Everybody should get Bark.
Just
Everybody should get Bark.
Bark, bark, bark. Barkity bark, bark, bark. Yeah. So back to my spying thing. So okay, I did not I'm stupid about this stuff. Like I did not realize it took so much work to install them. But and it wouldn't be forever. It would be, you'd come clean and say, I've been watching, I've been looking, I realize this is spying, but I needed to know to make sure that you were safe. So, you know, full disclosure, I'm your parent, and, you know, moving forward, this is how we're going to roll, because that's my thought about it. I didn't realize it was so hard to install because they can't cover their tracks. A 15-year-old, they've already been covering their tracks.
For sure. And there are spy apps.
But I don't
would let you do it without.
Yeah, I mean,
permission.
I know, like I said, I don't feel great about this, but because they can hide what they've been doing. Anyway, and I
think that they're going to slip up though, and they're going to slip up if they've already been doing it, and they know they're being monitored. It'll be fine for a couple of weeks. Or the other thing that's going to happen is they're going to start introducing new burner phones or new junk drawer phones into your home network or the network at school, and you'll find out eventually.
You'll see it.
You're going to see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. I mean, I did feel like that was a little assholey, but I also know that kids can be sneaky, and parents are in such deep denial.
There's a million ways they can be sneaky, and I don't know where that would end.
Okay. So then
it'd be good.
Yeah, I know. It probably wouldn't be good. Anyway, I'm just grasping at straws. I'm just trying to get people to do this. All right, come on, just fucking do it. Bark, bark, people, bark.
And do it early. That's the other thing.
That's the other thing I was going to ask you about. Like it's a privilege to have an app, right? But if your kid's 15, he's got 40 apps. Do we start all over again?
You start, I would, gosh, if they've already got all the apps, I might take it down to 2. And have a really hard and fast rule. There's no anonymous apps. Period. End of story. Anonymous apps are the devil.
What
Don't
are
let
they?
your kid have them.
Same one.
Yik Yak is one that just came back after a 4-year hiatus.
Oh, nice.
It's known for severe cyberbullying and making kids suicidal.
Nice.
There's nothing good that happens on anonymous apps. You can imagine, right? There's no profile attached to.
I just need you to even explain more deeply what an anonymous app is. Like, what is that? What is that?
So it's a place where your name is not attached. There's no profile attached to you. So it emboldens bullies. It emboldens people who have a grudge or want to be a troll or mean or rude or dicks or whatever. It emboldens them to be worse on these apps. And there are apps that are within the major 4, what I call the big 4, right? Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Snapchat has third-party apps associated with it that are anonymous.
Oh, God.
And so just because your kid is on Snapchat doesn't mean that their profile is attached and they're not using something anonymous anyway. There is a mom in Portland, Oregon. Kristen Bride is her name. She has single-handedly taken down 2 of the anonymous apps within Snapchat. They are temporarily not there anymore.
Wow.
Because of her advocacy and because she lost her son. She lost her son, Carson, to anonymous bullies. And this has become her mission, to expose anonymous apps for what they are, complete garbage, and get them out of there for kids.
Wow. And so you're like, Bark can pick up if there's an anonymous app attached to Snapchat, if your kid's using something like that?
Bark wouldn't tell you that it's an anonymous app, but it would tell you if there's bullying going on. You would get a parental alert saying, with a little snippet of what's happening.
Okay. How about this now? Why don't you tell us what Bark does? And by the way, the link that you get, Lisa's going to get a little kickback from Bark. So, right? We're going to use your affiliate link.
I don't care whose we use. I think people just need Bark.
I know.
Honestly.
I'm just saying that. I'm just to keep full disclosure, right? So Lisa's going to get a little kickback. Anyway, so will you just explain like what Bark does, how it works, pretty quickly, and then kind of get more back to the mom's, question about getting it installed and dealing with all like sort of more directly answer question instead of waving away?
So Bark is an app that helps parents see what's going on behind the scenes in their kids' worlds. What I love about Bark, why it's the best, is because it gives kids privacy until there's something inappropriate that happens. And inappropriate stuff, it might be an emoji that's inappropriate, a picture that has too much skin or blood in it. Parents would need to know about that. Or words, text words that are inappropriate perhaps, or they are in a group chat and someone says, I'm bringing a gun to school. That kind of thing would come up as a parental alert with Bark. I like that it gives kids all the privacy they want until something happens. The other thing I like about Bark is they're very middle of the road. They give very measured responses, and when there's something that they send an alert, there's also at the bottom resources. So if you suspect your child is being cyberbullied, here's 2 articles to go read. Here's a phone number you can call. Here's this. They give a lot of resources and support in addition to just saying, hey, there may be a problem.
Great.
I like that parents get to use their judgment on what's important to them to follow up on. I think there's really 3 paths for Bark. One is the severe alerts, where you go and take action immediately. You talk to your child, you do the next steps. The second is the watch and wait. Mm-hmm. And the third is, oh my gosh, I don't care if my 17-year-old is swearing. Profanity, I don't care.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. And easy to install?
It's the first time you do it is not easy. I would recommend an hour, and their support team is great. You can reach out if you have any questions or you're getting frustrated because something's not working right away.
Yeah.
What makes it complicated is most people have, say, 20 or 30 smart devices. They have smart TVs and smart watches and smart refrigerators, and all of that shows up on your network the first time. Ugh. So you have to designate it out to which profile has which devices, right? You want to have each of the kids have their own devices. So it is tricky the first time setting it up. The part I didn't say was Bark looks at 30 different apps that kids are using. So it's the Snapchat and the Instagram and all this stuff, in addition to school accounts like the Google and Microsoft accounts.
Oh, great. And just to be clear, this was not an ad for Bark.
It sounds like it.
I know. I'm like, shit, she sounds like an ad. No, we need to know. And you're the expert, right? This is the one you love and trust. And I love, and no kids need privacy online. I'm totally down for that. And I like that it's got the resources, right? That's brilliant. Because it's like, hey, your kid Googlered up boobs. Good luck with that is one thing, right? And another thing to say, hey, your kid has accessed some porn sites. Here's some places to go to get support, which is really, really terrific. Okay, so enough about Bark. I hope that people got the message. And there are other ones. So
yes, I've tried many of them.
There are, there are free options and that sort of thing. But anyway, okay, moving right along. Let's get this mama some ideas and how to talk with her kids about that this is going to be happening, and so maybe that initial conversation, that here comes the monitoring, that conversation, and then talking a little bit about the pushback too, right? Because she's going to get pushback.
She's going to get pushback, and that's okay. I mean, it's our job as parents to stand firm with some of the rules and limits, because we know what's best at this point. We know that setting limits on kids makes them do the most important things first. When you have screen time limits, they're going to go do what's most important first. If that's connecting with friends, great. If that's playing games, that's what they're going to do. So it's okay to get a little pushback. And the script is, these are our family values. This is not negotiable at this point. We can revisit this in 6 months as you start to have these privileges. We can revisit what this might look like. But Bark is here to stay, or whatever monitoring /filter /screen time limit you have, it's here to stay. This is part of how we're going to use the internet.
I like that. And I also recommend, if you're coming late to the game with this, is apologizing and saying,
for sure,
I made a mistake. We made a mistake. I'm really sorry. We should have done this from the beginning. We didn't. And I realize you're not going to be down for this, but here's the deal. And then what you said, because when we apologize, our kids lean into us, and you did make a mistake and you are sorry. I'm betting.
Yeah.
I'm betting.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you can blame a workshop. You can blame Amy. You can blame me. You can blame this podcast. oh my gosh, I had no idea until I just listened to this podcast that this was even a thing. And because of this, I need to change our family rules. I had no idea that this was going on. I'm sorry. Here's what I know.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really good way to go. So, so you introduce here we go, it's a coming, and then you spend 1 hour getting everything set up, maybe, right? And then you get things set up, and then, how do you manage? I mean, beyond saying those are our family values, like there's a point where you said, I don't care if my 17-year-old is swearing, right? We all know that I did not care if my 5-year-old was swearing. I did. We had rules about the swears. Then they're rolling along in their life with this. They're getting used to it. It's part of your family life. And there's going to be a point where they're going to have a fit, right? There's going to be a point. So what do you beyond saying this is our family values, do you have any, I guess what I actually know what I'm really asking is like, when do you let out the leash? What does that look like? Where do you give them more access, full access? Like, what does that look like? When you start taking off the filters, what does that look like? That's a better question.
I think that depends on what you're seeing and the sneakiness level. It's a really good question because we're all looking forward to when kids are in college, when they're out of our homes, when they have their own jobs, when they're 18 and I'm rolling my eyes, completely ready for what's next. We need to be training them. And I don't know if that means that monitoring stays on till they're 18, because for my 17-year-old, I still have bark because we still have conversations.
Yeah.
It's not at the same level as my 13-year-old.
Right.
But it still is, hey, do you think this was appropriate? And tell me about the situation. And I get a snippet and a friend is suicidal.
Oh.
Can you tell me what's going on here? Are they getting support? Do they have people in their life? Like it continues to be building on the things that my 17-year-old knows, and she'll bring things to me before I even see them because I'm still monitoring.
Yeah,
she'll say, hey mom, you're going to get an alert.
That's great.
This is what's going on.
That's great.
That's her internal compass. And I think it's important to continue that conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because my theory is that, so you're not filtering anymore for her. Can she just free range? Can she go wherever she wants?
Right. And that gives me the shivers to even say that.
Yeah. But sounds like she's got some really good stuff going on, right? She knows she
has foundations.
Yeah. She knows she can talk to you. She warns you, right? To get ahead of it, right? Right?
She's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it kind of seems to me that a family rule should be up until they're 18, right? Because at 18, they're legal adults. And if you're spying, they become spying, right? But if they're in your household and they're not a legal adult, then I think the monitoring should stay on. It's kind of a price of admission. And then at some point you do just have to I'm crossing, you can't see me. Hello, listener, you can't see me. I'm crossing, you just have to cross your fingers and hope that they're going to be okay, and hope that the work you've been doing has been helpful to them in terms of their online lives, and that they'll come to you. I mean, really at the end of the day, if shit's going down, even if they're, I was going to say, even if they're 35, I was like, no, even if they're 23, you want them to come to you and say, oh my God, this thing's going on. I don't know what to do with it, or with myself, right? Yeah. Or with myself in relation to it. So, all right. Any other tips, thoughts?
I think the mom was talking about video games in specific. If I remember, she's got a 10-year-old son.
Yes.
So I would say definitely bark is the way to go. For some of the gaming systems, you can go to this free website. It just happens to have bark in the name, but it's called bark-o-matic.com, bark-o-matic. And that's a free site where you just input everything that you have that your child uses, whether it's a smart TV or a video game platform, any of those things that are kind of peripheral to what we think of about, us old people think about for accessing the internet.
Yeah.
And it'll spit out parental controls that it'll say step by step, go do this, touch this, do that, to get to the parental controls that are in each device.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Again, show notes. That's super cool. Okay. So let's wrap this baby up. So here's what I would like to know. I'm all about baby steps. I read this great book that I love. It's by John Acuff called Finish. And it's a book about how to achieve goals. And so one of the big takeaways for me from that book, I highly recommend it actually for everyone to read because it's terrific and it's short because you want to finish it, right? Anyway, so he talks about changing habits or setting goals, and they should be really, really like small. So my question for you is, what is one thing you recommend, or maybe two things? Let's do two things you recommend that, after listening to us, you recommend that parents do. Doesn't have to be a giant thing, can be a tiny thing. So one or two things that parents can do within the next 48 hours. I like a little time limit.
I like that too. I like that it's going to be quick and easy. One thing that comes to mind immediately is to set aside some unplugged time and talk about it. Talk about it with your family. I miss when we used to look at each other and laugh and talk, and it seems like we're all on the couch and we're scrolling and we're, the time to connect as humans. When does that happen? So could we as a family set up an unplugged time for an hour this weekend where we get out a puzzle or we take a walk or do something and have that be a part of the structure of our week? I think that's one idea, is to recognize that many kids aren't getting unplugged time and to help build that into the family.
I love that. I love a schedule.
I love schedules.
People know it's coming, right? This is our plan on Saturday mornings. We do this for an hour or whatever. Okay, I love that. Tip number 1, plan some unplugged time, even 1 hour. Easy. Right?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be, we're going to go screen free all week. That seems really hard and heavy, and your kids will hate you. But to say, hey, I miss you.
Yeah.
Can we have a little bit of time together? That's a different energy. And most kids are going to say, yeah, let's do it.
You love it. I love it. Okay. One more thought, idea.
Oh gosh, Amy, what's another thought?
You don't have to have one. I feel like that was good enough, actually. That feels both simple and big. Let's leave it at
big. Well, right. I mean, the other thing is what we harped on. Find a system that works. Yes. Everybody needs a safety system.
Yeah.
It should be app-based so that it's not all in your brain driving you crazy, especially if you have multiple kids. You got to have an app for the filter, the limit, and the monitoring.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I learned a ton. Yay, experts. And please give a listen to Lisa's podcast that I got it. Unplug and Plug In. I think it's going to be super helpful, and yay. So thank you so much. And I will see you soon.
So glad to be here, Amy. Anytime.
That's it for this week. Thanks to everyone who's been calling in. The number's 206-926-1522. So please leave me a message if you have a question or a tale from the trenches. And thank you to Melanie Smith, my producer, and to Rolf, who wrote the Birds and Bees and Kids theme song.